Hi, I'm Chris Fry from MDTS Training, and today I'm here at the Greenfield Fish and Game Club in upstate New York. I'm going to be talking to you today about the proper stance or platform and the 4 points of contact for shooting the AR-15. Working with my friend Fred here, we're going to start and we're going to move from the feet up. So let's get started. Facing downrange, Fred's going to start off with a good shoulder width stance. He wants his knees bent. And as he brings the carbine up into his shoulder and gets a good cheek weld, and we move up his body, he wants a forward lean from the waist. So if you look at his waist here, he's not sticking his butt way far out. All he's doing is he's leaning forward at his waist, almost like doing an upper body crunch. His knees are bent so that if he has to move quickly, he doesn't have to unlock them first to move. And he's in a good stable position. One foot is slightly back from the other so that he can properly manage any type of recoil he gets from that carbine. As we continue to move upward, we get to his shoulders and his elbows, and importantly, his elbows. Notice that this elbow isn't flared out like this in the typical long gun shooting type platform. If his elbow's out like this and Fred has to move through his home to get from point A to point B, and he's in a hurry, maybe he's under stress, maybe there's someone screaming downstairs, he doesn't want this elbow flagged up because when he goes running down that hallway, he might slam it onto a door frame or onto some type of object or even hit a person with it. The second reason is if Fred needs to shoot around or utilize some type of cover or concealment, this elbow will precede him when he goes to break that piece of cover or concealment. So he wants both of his elbows down, and what we try to tell people is think about wringing the water out of a towel. So he's going to wring the water out of the towel and crunch his elbows down. The nice thing when he does this is it tends to cause his shoulders to curl around the stock of the carbine. So once again, from the feet up, shoulder width stance, knees bent, forward lean, nose over toes, upper body crunch, elbows down. That's his platform. And what's important to remember is that Fred's lower body operates separately from his upper body. The reason we call it a platform and not a stance is because a stance denotes, for me, a fixed position. And when it comes to any type of personal protection or self-defense, we never want to be in a fixed position. So Fred's legs operate kind of like the tracks on a tank. And no matter what direction he decides to move in, his upper body can operate independently of that, and he can address targets in all different directions as his tracks move him forward. So now that we've gotten to what he should be doing with his feet, we want to look at the 4 points of contact he's going to make with the carbine. And this is very, very important. And the first point of contact should be his final firing grip or his strong hand. If Fred takes all the other points of contacts off the gun, he takes his support hand off, your support hand, and he takes his cheek weld off, take your cheek weld off the gun. Worst case scenario, Fred can press that gun out one-handed, press it away from your shoulder, and he could still pull the trigger and fire the gun. So the most important part of this 4 points of contact is his final firing grip, treating it almost in a worst case scenario like a long pistol. So now he's going to bring it back into his shoulder pocket and get his full 4 points of contact. Some things about this first point of contact is he wants to have a high grip into the beaver tail or the tang of this grip. Just like shooting a pistol, I don't want to have any kind of gap here when I'm shooting. So I want to choke up nice and high into that tang or beaver tail. Same thing applies when Fred's shooting the carbine. So this is our number 1 point of contact, the strong hand. The second point of contact is his shoulder weld. And with his shoulder weld, he wants the full buttstock into his shoulder, and he's crunching his elbows down, wrapping his shoulders around the stock. He wants to create a good, rigid surface behind that stock so that he can manage the recoil effectively. The third point of contact is a good cheek weld. And you notice how Fred's cheek is kind of pushed out there by the comb of the stock. And that's important. One thing that we see a lot is people who bring their head down to the gun. So if you want to over-exaggerate that, Fred, like maybe move the carbine stock too far out, where the head goes, the body goes. So if Fred has to tilt his head way far over to get to the stock of the gun, and then he has to move rapidly, he has a higher potential of falling down. So he wants this stock nice and close, center line to his body, good shoulder weld, and he wants to try to keep his head up as straight as possible. A key concept here is bring the gun to your face, don't bring your face to the gun. So a little test of that, watch, is if Fred keeps his head right where it is, and I very slowly lower his muzzle, relax, and he keeps his head right where it is. Now I raise his muzzle, notice that the gun came to his face didn't come to the gun. And finally, the fourth point of contact is Fred's support hand grip on the carbine. And now with this carbine here, he's utilizing a angled foregrip, but whether you have a vertical foregrip or just a regular forend, some key points that we want to pay attention to is he wants to get a good grip with that forward hand, and he wants to try to either point with his index finger aligned with the muzzle or with his thumb aligned with the muzzle. So now that you know the proper platform and 4 points of contact with your AR-15, go out to the range, do some shooting, make that your own. If you need to find a shooting location in your area, check out NSSF's website, wheretoshoot.org.